Calling the meeting to order, 6 o'clock on June 17th, 2025. If that, would you like to do the roll call for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember DeWillis? Councilmember Dow?
Here.
Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Mosley?
Here.
Councilmember Wilden?
Here.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Here.
And Mayor Shaw.
Here. Okay. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You just pulled it.
We'll let him in. He missed the gavel, though. Okay, so next is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, the city council, and/or the city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. What have we got?
I've got a few things. On June 11th, I attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the Villas on Shelby, a 30-unit apartment complex in Sedona near the recycling facility some of you may know. The Villas on Shelby will provide badly needed low-income housing to Sedona and the Verde Valley and hopefully positively impact Sedona residents' ideas about low-income housing. This is the first low-income housing tax credit project in Sedona. On June 11th, council attended Coffee with Council, which was hosted very nicely by Queen Bee Vinyl Cafe in Old Town. Airport Manager Rod Probst provided an update on the airport and addressed citizens' questions. And then on June 13th, council attended an event at the Rec Center to partake in a University of Arizona community science project to collect indoor and outdoor air, dust, and soil in our residential areas. They will analyze the samples we collect and report the results this fall. That's all I have.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Whitmer?
I do, Mayor. Even though they are on the agenda, I want to reach out and say thank you to the fire department. They came by my house, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or so. I donated a trailer full of wood for their fire training, and they volunteered, came over, excuse me, I apologize for being late, and took the entire trailer load that I donated, and I hope that you guys use it for good use. And I just wanted to give a shout out. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I've got a few items here as well. Just a reminder that the City of Cottonwood administrative offices will be closed on this Thursday, June 19th, in observance of Juneteenth. Then we've got, join us for the 26th annual Fantastic Family 4th of July celebration at Cottonwood Kids Park on Friday, July 4th, from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Enjoy free food served from 4 to 6 p.m. Inflatables available with the purchase of a wristband, a VFW patriotic salute, and various local foods and retail vendors will be present. Our spectacular fireworks show will begin at 9 p.m. A heartfelt thank you to our sponsors and community partners for their continued support, and to all the staff for everything they do to make these things as successful as they are. Then the mayor and I and Chief Frudenthal also attended a meeting here, was on Monday? On Monday, to discuss, this was a meeting with most of the cities here in the Verde Valley, as well as the county, They're looking to begin the process of trying to put together a regional communications center here in the Verde Valley. And so we participated in that. It was a very good meeting. Then the last thing is, this morning, at the request of the Yavapai County, I attended a meeting over in Prescott with all the other city and town managers to begin the process of creating a strategic plan for the county. This will be their first ever strategic plan, and they asked for input from all the cities and town managers. And that's it.
Okay,
Just
great.
to tag on to the 4th of July, a number of people in the city and out of the city, actually, once again got 4 F-35s out of Luke Air Force Base to do a flyover for the 4th, and it's spectacular. So the whole fireworks display is spectacular. This is in addition to it. So, thank you.
It is. It's worth the wait. I wait until 9 o'clock and it's like, now. It's great. I love it. So next on the agenda is a presentation from the Cottonwood Fire Department to tell us about the FIREWISE program. Welcome, Chief Sotman. Good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Ron Saltman, Fire Chief for City of Cottonwood. We have a presentation this evening on FIREWISE and what that is at the community level and also for the city. So we're going to go through a quick presentation, and I have this evening with me Mr. Pat Burkhart, who is the chair of the Cottonwood Ranch FIREWISE Committee, and they would like to be able to talk to you a little bit and maybe field some questions that you may have regarding FIREWISE. Okay, so to begin, National FIREWISE USA Recognition Program provides collaborative framework, helps neighbors in a geographic area to get organized and find direction. This has been going on around the nation for quite a number of years. Prescott Basin area being one of those areas that has a very lengthy history, 50-plus years that they've been doing FIREWISE, which they're very proud of, and they have a lot of communities associated. And we are working to bring that into our Verde Valley. The FIREWISE USA program is administered by NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, and it's co-sponsored by the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, and the National Association of State Foresters. NFPA administers the program, but individuals and communities participate on a voluntary basis. The research around home destruction versus home survival and wildfires points to embers and small flames as the main way that the majority of homes ignite in wildfires. I think this was evidenced during the LA fires, and that really came to bear on a lot of people didn't understand how do you have fire on the beach. And this is very specifically what they're speaking to in this scenario here, this description. And that it's not really necessarily the trees that are touching, it's the embers and the motion, wind, all the things that come together to deliver that material, that burning material across large areas and getting into roof lines and things of that nature that perpetuates fire. So that's a very important distinction to make. The Verde Valley as a whole needs significant improvement with regard to wildfire safety. As stated before, Prescott, there on bullet point 3. Conversely, Prescott Basin has 40-plus FIREWISE designated communities. That's pretty significant. Whereas the Verde Valley, we only have 4. We've been working together and discussing that. We have the town of Jerome, the Coffee Pot Ranch area in Sedona, La Barranca in Sedona, and now Cottonwood Ranch, which is a good thing. We're very excited about that, and that's the evolution that we want to see, but we're still woefully behind. What that is to say is that you have individual communities that are working diligently on their safety and the safety of their neighbors, but that's not necessarily reciprocal around them. Does that make sense? So there could be problems with other neighborhoods and or, properties adjacent to theirs that can compromise their safety, even though they're putting forth the work. So it's just a small step in that process, but we're very proud to have achieved that. This is primarily the reason we have that issue is due to lack of education and traditional apathy that we've had throughout the area of the Verde Valley. People have this idea that if I don't live in pine trees, we don't have a problem, and that is an absolute falsehood. And that's why we've seen what happened in LA as a prime example that doesn't apply. FIREWISE or fire danger exists with proximity of homes, not keeping your properties clean, not having good construction typing, all of those different factors come to play. So this is just a part of what that conversation looks like as we evolve as a city and individual communities and organizations. We've been currently working on fuels mitigation within the city. The fire department is providing that. It's kind of at its infancy. We're just beginning this process. You can see there in the photo, that is actually the workday that we had here at Riverfront, where we got together with community volunteers and began starting that cleanup process all through the area. It's a strategic vegetation management. That's an important distinction to make. Some people believe that when you hear about fuels mitigation, they think of moonscaping, where we just wipe everything out and therefore nothing can burn. That's actually not true. It's very dangerous to do that because it actually creates more problems in the soil and water runoff and things of that nature. So it really does benefit the ecosystem and the environment around it, so another good reason to promote this. Cottonwood Fire uses on-duty personnel to identify, assess, and provide fuels mitigation with city-owned property. So that's where we put our main focus currently, is working on city property, but that will ultimately, through the evolution of the program and through what communities are doing adjacent to us, we'll be able to work together to be able to create better defensible space and property management in those areas. And hopefully that will ultimately be citywide. The program is fledgling. We are just beginning this process and we really need support in this, and that's having us here this evening and being able to hear the information that we're presenting, and then having the opportunity to have folks come together and speak on this subject matter that you can hear from the community's perspective. Right now, Cottonwood Fire and Jerome are the only fire departments that actually provide that service within the Verde Valley, where we're actually going out and doing active fuels mitigation. Periodically, you will see other departments in the area maybe supporting communities, but in general, that's about all that they're doing currently. I boast that because that's a rare thing. In other jurisdictions, that is a totally separate environment and separate operational group within the city that actually does fuels mitigation, but we're able to do it with what we have and how we can be best used by the city. We work on this as a process that's ultimately beginning with, like right now we're doing trails and parks and things of that nature. Ultimately, we would like to expand into all city facilities. So as you can see here, you look around this structure as a good example. Are there anything that we're doing to create defensible space in those kind of environments to protect city buildings and things of that nature, the infrastructure that we have in place? At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Burkhart to present some information to you and field any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I'll only be 45 minutes or so. Mayor, members of council, my name is Patrick Burkhart. I live at 395 South Desperado in Cottonwood Ranch. I'm the chair of the Cottonwood Ranch FIREWISE Committee, and I'm pleased to have several members of the committee with us here tonight. Risk management is a concept that's been part of our DNA since humans first developed the capability to sense and assess the likelihood of harm. FIREWISE USA for a neighborhood, a community, or a state is part of a risk management posture that identifies the potential for wildfire, quantifies the impact of potential wildfire events, and then devises and implements mitigation and prevention strategies to minimize the threat to protect lives, property, income, and operational capabilities. Cottonwood Ranch mirrors many characteristics of the city, and that is topography, the scattered patches of dense and desiccated vegetation close to homes and businesses, the climate, the proximity to desert shrublands, and the innumerable possibilities for ignition, both natural and human caused, are very similar. If you look at the data presented in the Yavapai County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, you'll see that on average, within 10 miles of where we stand here tonight, 2 wildfires will occur each year. Indeed, the Tuesday Good Fire from 2023 was only 1.5 miles from where we stand. That fire occurred while the ground was still moist with seasonal rains. The winds were light, blowing to the north. The National Park Service had previously conducted fuel mitigation on the site that protected the buildings. But what if? What if that fire had started in the fall and the winds were blowing to the south? The outcome would have been very, very different and quite possibly tragic. What Lahaina, LA, and even going back as far as the Oakland Hills fire in 1991 have taught us is that conflagration is possible in residential communities just like ours. And the cost resulting from those kinds of events accrue for years and for lifetimes. Conflagrations result from the density and dispersion of wind-driven flaming embers, igniting combustible debris, leading to sequential fires, structure fires, scattered over distances measured in miles. That's risk number one. I've had people in this community tell me that it cannot happen here. Not in Cottonwood. We're not Flagstaff. We're not Prescott. But just like my good friend, the chief, we've become quite good buddies. But those who understand fire science and have worked large wildfire events know that indeed it can happen here. Drive our neighborhoods, look at the wood frame construction, look at the density and proximity of vegetation and debris to the structures, note the distance between the structures. That's the beginning of a long laundry list of conditions that require mitigation. Risk number two is loss of property insurance. It is happening in our community, it's happened in our neighborhood. Homeowners have had their coverage dropped, causing them to scramble to find other insurers, usually at much higher premiums. The horror stories abound in Yavapai County, they abound in Coconino County and across the state. And the solutions have been elusive. Many state, local, regional governments in Arizona and across the nation are turning to FIREWISE as a potential bulwark against this trend. This is a situation analysis that led Cottonwood Ranch to pursue and maintain designation as a FIREWISE community. And that task requires both effort and partnership. It requires a cadre of dedicated volunteers, which we are blessed to have. Our team and our residents have logged nearly 2,000 hours of volunteer time just since January 15th when we started. The path to certification might best be described as a crash course in risk management. Happily, the Cottonwood Fire Department, Yavapai FIREWISE, its partners, other HOAs, the National Forest, the Department of Forestry and Fire Management, and many others, are glad to offer pointers and guidance and resources. But the plan for each FIREWISE community produces must be unique. And in order to be accepted by the Department of Forest and Fire Management and the NFPA, it must demonstrate knowledge, competence, and capacity. We did not wait for our action plan to be approved by NFPA. It's a process that from start to finish took 3 months, and I've been told is kind of lightning quick. Rather, we went to work immediately after getting our HOA to approve our committee and the plan. We hosted an open house. We had 2 vegetation removal events in the first 60 days, even before our plan was uploaded for review and approval. We met weekly for more than 3 months, literally building the plane while flying it. We created detailed profiles of our washes and trails, solicited bids to remove excess vegetation, engaged Yavapai County, Cottonwood Fire Department, and others about collaborating along our mutually shared boundaries. And that's just the highlights of what we've done. Cottonwood Ranch has a significant fuel mitigation challenge, as well as what's along our shared borders. We intend to pursue grant funding from the Department of Forestry and Fire Management through Yavapai FIREWISE to help reduce that fuel load problem. We have 36 acres we need to clear. The point I'm trying to make here is FIREWISE is not a casual activity. It is not rocket science, but it does require diligence. As an aside, a FIREWISE community can be as small as 8 homeowners or as large as 2,500. You don't need an entire HOA to do this. One block, both sides of the street, would qualify as a FIREWISE community. We are also trained and certified as home ignition zone assessors. In recent weeks, our 7 trained assessors have visited 30 homes. We have a long way to go because Cottonwood Ranch is 527 homes. The 2023 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, which I encourage you to read, it'll keep you up at night, cites the existence of more than 11,000 structures in the city of Cottonwood. That's a very heavy lift for the Cottonwood Fire Department to do alone. As an aside, if you want to see how the program works, one of our assessors, our team, would be happy to come to your house and give you a demo. It's free, it's confidential, and we're good at it. So call me up. While we've been moving at warp speed in response to the scale and the immediacy of the risk that faces our community, even if we do everything possible, even if we do it as quickly as possible, there are no guarantees that in a wildfire every home is going to survive. But we can do a lot to improve the odds that homes with strong defensible spaces will survive. One more page. We recognize that FIREWISE works most effectively when it becomes viral and a cultural community standard. We're working to make that happen, partnering with the Cottonwood Fire Department and the resources that are available through Yavapai FIREWISE. We've already had a meeting with another fairly large community in the valley that wants to replicate our work. We support the inclusion of this strategy in the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan in the section that talks about the city of Cottonwood. I read recently in the Yavapai FIREWISE website that every dollar spent on mitigation prevents as much as $23 spent in fire suppression. That's a very good return on investment. Finally, we feel truly fortunate to have Chief Soutmund and Fire Marshal Contreras in our corner. They've attended our board meetings, validated our work, and have supported our residents. And I'm sure that kind of experience is not unique to Cottonwood Ranch, but we're very deeply appreciative. Finally, we're also very appreciative for the opportunity to come here tonight, tell you what we're doing, and encourage you to help others do the same. So, Chief.
Thank you. All right, so trying to kind of wrap this up in the discussion. Some of the things that when we ask, when this process is in place and as we're working on it, what can we do? So supporting Cottonwood Fire with this fuels mitigation work and associated needs, meaning that if there's opportunity for us to do trails management and to be able to get out there and work around the facilities, make that opportunity available to us, we will pay for itself in the long term. Promote and celebrate the community groups that work for and achieve this formal FIREWISE designation, creating opportunities to provide city support to those groups. I think that's an essential thing that the city can do in promoting this process, as we talked about. Again, if we don't take it seriously and we don't act upon it, then people have a tendency to become very apathetic, and we don't want to have that. We want to promote this as something to do. There's also tertiary impacts that do matter when it comes to people's homeowners insurance, things of that nature that we will discuss if you have questions on. Consider the potential value to cost for WUI, Wildland-Urban Interface codes, and the enforcement of such in the future. We're not there yet, but that conversation will be coming, so please consider that. I know the state of Arizona is looking at that globally, so that'll be a conversation maybe we want to entertain in the future. And then move beyond the historic apathy regarding wildfire safety in the community, and that comes, I believe, from us. I believe as community government, we are leaders, and it's our responsibility to set that tone. So we'd appreciate that support coming from the council as we continue this effort. So any questions that we can answer for you?
I have a couple. What do you do with whatever it is that you cut away and haul away? Where does that go, and how is that made safe so that it itself is not continuing to be a fire hazard?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, we do deal with that every time we do a project, because burning and our ability to get rid of the material is not always the option. So right now, what we do is we stockpile it, we set it aside out of the area so it doesn't affect the community in a safe area, and then during the fall and winter months, we will do control burning to actually burn that material up. Other options do exist. I would encourage the community to look at things such as chippers. Wood chippers. Those are great to be able to use at the community level, and then that material can be reutilized back into the community for surface covering, which does not promote fire growth. So there's ways that we can make the materials benefit the community itself that they're removing, if that makes sense.
May I do 30 seconds? on
Please.
that, too? We have done 2 mitigation activities in our neighborhood before the weather got too warm. And we had to take that material over to the transfer station and pay several $100s to get rid of it. Yavapai County, I think it just concluded, they have areas where residents can bring their clippings and trimmings and limbs and so forth. The only one on this side of the valley is in Camp Verde. So there's nothing close by. So it would be wonderful, quite honestly, if when we have community events or days where people can mitigate their properties, they wouldn't have to pay hundreds of dollars to get rid of it.
My other question is about FIREWISE connected with APS and their efforts to make sure that they're, they may be doing sort of minimal things around their old wooden poles or something, I'm not sure, but they are also very concerned about power being a source of fire that could potentially lead to disaster. So they're doing what they can, I think. And I just wondered how, FIREWISE might connect with APS's current programming.
Absolutely, great question. And there is a mechanism. Normally in the perfect world, and I say perfect because we're currently evolving, you get all of those partner organizations. So you get groups like APS, SRP, United States Forest Service, Department of Forestry, Fire Management, FIREWISE communities, local responders. They come together and they'll usually develop a fuels mitigation program. And what that is looking at the area globally speaking. So they would, instead of it just being City of Cottonwood, they would look at Cottonwood proper. That would include the Verde villages and all of those things. And they would begin doing work globally as a coordinated effort towards that. So APS clearing power lines, us clearing property that we own within the city adjacent to homeowners clearing their property. You begin to create barrier to the outside world with the Forest Service and other lands that are out there. And that's ultimately what they've seen in the Prescott Basin area. That's been an ongoing project for in excess of 20 years. And the entire south side of Prescott has a protective barrier, if you will, from over by like where Costco is, and it extends all the way around to the backside that they've been working on for 20 years through that process of coordinating, bringing folks together to develop that plan. So it's an ongoing thing. FIREWISE is a living, breathing thing. It goes on all the time.
So, Mr. Burkhart? It's Burkhart? Got it right on the first try?
Yeah, I'm
Okay. That's
people
not my
seldom
usual,
do, so good
not
on
my
you.
usual batting average. But, there's discussion about historic apathy. So how was support within Cottonwood Ranch built for this program?
The truth is, it's been bubbling up for several years. And our iteration of putting together a program, getting a committee up and running, getting the certification, is actually not a new idea. There are those who try to get things going before. But there just wasn't enough oomph in it, and there was also a sense that some folks might be inventing a problem that didn't exist, kind of like the sky is falling. But in fact, when you walk our trails and you see some of the areas that surround our community, and the community is 25 years old. We've got a lot of mature vegetation. We have a lot of homes that were landscaped for beauty and not for safety. So we got a lot of work ahead, but we've had, the ones I can document for certain, we've had participation from 70 homeowners already. And I know the word has spread much further than that. We didn't have to convince people. The response was, finally. Yep.
Chief, help me out with who's responsible for having conversations with neighboring properties who aren't keeping up their end of the bargain?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that is an unfortunate challenge that we always will deal with. It ultimately falls to a kind of a group of people. So you have the individual homeowners that may be adjacent to the property, so they may be having discussion. It works through our system in the code enforcement and prevention area. It also works through the city's process that they have in place for code enforcement with property. But at the end of the day, all we can really do is monitor our own. That's the best that we can do. There's no fail-proof answer. I know that we do have legal ability to impose some restrictions on folks or to help them get things fixed, but that's a very challenging moving target frequently that we have to contend with.
I will agree with you. And I'll make this statement to Mr. Burkhart. This isn't pointed at you, Mr. Burkhart, but it is pointed at your HOA. And I say that because I have about 350 feet of property line next to your HOA property that I've been maintaining for 8 years with a wood chipper that hasn't been maintained. And I know you're working on it, but please be conscious of also the people that are outside of your boundary who your property touches against, because it's been a lot of work.
Yeah. You're on Airport Road, no doubt. There are a number of properties that there is no buffer between the ranch and those property owners. I assume you are one. There are halfway to the north, there is about a 7-foot buffer that the land that belongs to the ranch, but beyond the property line of the homeowner. Well, we have discussed those particular properties that abut those homeowners. And I'm glad you're here tonight because I think I'm going to be taking you to coffee pretty soon. We need to figure out how to do that because they don't have the ability to reach across their fences and trim. And so part of what we have to do is engage those homeowners. And you're the first in line. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a comment and a couple questions. First of all, kudos to the Cottonwood Ranch on your initiative and seeing this project through. It's really great to see your neighborhood come together like this, and really I encourage other city neighborhoods to follow suit. And I'm really appreciative of what you said, that you're already helping out another community. So keep that up, and I appreciate the volunteer spirit that you have. So my first question is there any data to show that being a FIREWISE community will reduce insurance premiums?
We've been having long conversation about that. So without getting too much into the weeds, you kind of have to understand how the property insurance companies operate. There's two different models. State Farm has their own, and everyone else uses a common data set. They don't come and look at your property and make individual assessments. You're factored into in a lump sum. So we have two choices. That's what I told our board when we started. You can do nothing, or you can do FIREWISE. The only tool, the only wedge you will eventually have to work with your insurance company one-on-one is FIREWISE certification. And USAA recognizes it. There is a state commission organized by the Department of Insurance. There's a lot of firefighting organizations that are part of it. They started their work in January. They're mirroring the work that's happening all over the place. They're trying to come up with some solutions. There was legislation introduced, and I don't know how far it got, to require the insurance companies to take FIREWISE designation into account when they set their rates. It is the only tool homeowners are going to have. And it may not work, quite honestly. But we know if we do nothing, it's not going to work either. So we're taking our best shot and having some faith that we can make it happen.
Okay, thank you. My other question is for Chief. Mr. Burkhart mentioned, several $100s that was, that came from the community to pay for the disposal of the organic waste. And I think in your cover note in our briefing package, there was a mention about some of the funding that could be provided to support the FIREWISE program. Is there anything in the fiscal year 2026 budget for the FIREWISE program, either directly or indirectly?
Not specifically, no, and the reason being is that we were in process of developing budget at the time they received certification, so we were not aware of that challenge. It will be in the future if that's at the pleasure of the board, that they would like to see that, or the council. We would like to have that option. Yeah, it's an expensive proposition, but I also realize that there's mechanisms that we can use to help to offset cost and/or keep that at very minimal through the application of how we do the program, so that it can be discussed in the future when we bring information to you on the numbers.
I'd like to see that, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything more?
We're good?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Good job, Patrick.
Next, we have call to the public. The public may address the council on matters directly relating to city business that are not listed on the agenda during the call to the public by submitting a written request to speak form to the city clerk no later than the conclusion of the information reports updates portion of the agenda. There is a 3-minute time frame per speaker, and all comments shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any member thereof, staff, or audience. The mayor may direct a speaker to stop speaking and leave the podium or adjourn the meeting if anyone becomes disorderly or uncivil, makes personal attacks against any person or persons, or if the mayor determines that the speaker is speaking about items that are outside the city's legal authority to act. Thank you for listening to that entire admonition. First is Jeannie Gold. Do you want to come up, please?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, I want to take this moment to say thank you for doing your work in a professional, detail-oriented, and upstanding way, for putting an end to the chaos and destructiveness that dominated our previous City Council membership. Thank you for working together as a cohesive team in order to serve the best interests of our city, for sharing your different points of view in a courteous and respectful manner at meetings, for restoring honor and integrity to the positions you occupy, for implementing the Coffee with City Council events in Cottonwood. They're terrific. For developing the monthly Cottonwood newsletter, and for so much more. I also want to say thank you to our city staff for everything that you do, often behind the scenes in service to those of us who live here. You are pretty darn amazing. Now, I am not saying any of this to flatter anyone, as flattery is something I don't much care for. I just simply want to say thank you for all that you do. You and what you do are much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. You sure you don't want to offer some form of complaint? I don't know if we can handle all of that. Thank you. Next is Elaine Bremner. Ms. Bremner, do you want to come up? And following Ms. Bremner is Jim Spellman, so when she's finished, you can step right up here, okay?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, et al. I'm just here to respond to some questions that were asked at the last meeting. And Councilman Christel, you'd asked about the number of volunteer hours that the Senior Centre has accumulated. Thus far, for this fiscal year, ending June 30th, we have recorded 7,800 volunteer hours. It's a lot of hours for a small community. It saved a lot of money. Okay. And then your other question was about payroll for this year. Through the end of April, $212,534 has been spent on payroll. We budgeted much more than that, and at this point, after the end of April, we had only used 60.93% of our budget. And let's see, Felicia, Councilwoman Felicia, Vice Mayor, you had inquired about the use of the food banks in our program in order to save money. I called Neil Sneller, who is the CEO at the Prescott Meals on Wheels program, and they discontinued that practice today because the state contract is quite clear that food is to be purchased from a certified, licensed vendor. And anyway, Neil tried it out, but it does not work for Meals on Wheels. After receiving shipments of whole chickens that had to be cut up, and that involved more labor, more food handling, etc. And then all of the produce had to be sorted through what you can use and what you can't use. And when you're feeding, like 400 people a day, that can be very labor intensive. So if I thought, just a second, I notified them, and so did someone else, that the terms of their contract do not permit that food, okay, food bank food. And so he said he'd written a letter to discontinue using St. Mary's as a food source. Okay, I think it was a mistake because he's reasonably new to that position and wasn't really aware. And I thought if you are seeking more information regarding NACOG's outlook on it, please call or email Jana Truman. Her email address is jtruman@nacog.org. Okay, so that was just about it, and I'm wondering where do we stand, Madam Mayor, with regards to being a line item in the city's budget, because I never heard anything on that, and so I'll wait your answer.
Thank you.
Just thank you. Am I to be informed of something? I don't know. About, are we going to be extended? Pardon?
Elaine, the budget's going to be talked about a little bit later, so.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. I just want to remind you very quickly, okay, the majority of cities and towns across America have chambers of commerce, libraries, and senior centers as line items in their budgets. It is a normal practice, has nothing to do with other nonprofits. We are a life-saving entity. So thank you very much. I'd ask you to perhaps extend it for a year until you can sort it out, okay? And also perhaps you can meet me halfway, because that would be a big help. We have many more mouths to feed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Sorry. No? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Spellman?
Hello. Hello, City Council. My name is Jim Spellman. I've been a resident here about 8 years. Had a house here about 20. I want to propose an idea to get a Connect bus connected up to Flagstaff for the Social Security and the railroad tracks to connect down here, bring down tourism down here, and allow other people to go up to Flagstaff and end up with the bus or the trains to go east and west. I've been thinking about this for a while and talked to Nikki Check, and I've been talking to other people around town. It'd be a really great idea for ADA people to use too, to come back and forth between Flagstaff. We're wondering if it's in your budget to set up a deal like this, putting a bus route that goes up there and comes back 3 times a day on a Lynx bus. If it's not that possible, maybe we can do this on privatized. I believe we're really wanting to go to Santa Barbara rather than be here in the hot heat. I was wondering if it's a possibility for thinking about this. That's about all I wanted to talk about. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, next we have approval of minutes from the work session of May 13th, the regular meetings of May 20th and June 3rd.
I move to approve the minutes of work session of May 13, 2025, and regular meetings of May 20 and June 3, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Next is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. The first is resolution number 3348, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an agreement with the Yavapai County Free Library District for library support services and membership in the Yavapai Library Network. Did you want to address this, Mr. Teal? You don't have to. I just wondered if you wanted to say something about it.
Madam Mayor, that would be at council's leisure. If you'd like to pull the item, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have on either of those two.
Okay. Next is resolution number 3349, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an affiliate library agreement with the Yavapai County Free Library District. Next is consideration and possible approval of acceptance of the Arizona Department of Public Safety Anti-Human Trafficking Award and Implementation Agreement. Number 4 is consideration and possible approval to use the Omnia Partners Cooperative Agreement to purchase a safety program from Flock Safety for an amount not to exceed $199,000. Number 5 is consideration and possible approval of Sourcewell Cooperative 101223-AXN purchasing agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated to purchase Axon tasers, community request software, interview room cameras, and body-worn cameras, and software bundle in an amount not to exceed $627,55 over the 51-month term of the agreement. Are there any items that someone wants to pull for any reason?
Madam Mayor, just for the record, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote due to not necessarily a conflict of interest, but for transparency reasons for item number 4 and 5, because of my dealings in a different city with these two contractors.
Okay, well, let's take 1 through 3 separately then. A single motion for 1 through 3.
I could just sit out the whole thing.
Okay, you can, but I didn't want to exclude you.
I'm good.
So if there's no question about any of these, I'll accept a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5 as they were read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to new business. We have a public hearing on the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
Mayor, real quick, while Kirsten gets set up, would it be okay if Yvette read the resolutions by title only?
Or I will.
Or you, either way, yeah.
Yeah, I'll read them into the record, Yvette, unless you're dying to do this. Okay. Resolution number 3348, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an agreement with the Yavapai County Free Library District for library support services and membership in the Yavapai Library Network. Next is resolution number 3349, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, approving an affiliate library agreement with the Yavapai County Free Library District.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kirsten Linden, the Financial Services Director for the City of Cottonwood. And our first item is to open the floor for a public hearing. So we'll open the floor and see if there's any public comment, and then you can close the floor, and then I will give a small presentation on adopting the tentative budget.
Okay. In that vein, I will open the floor for any public discussion of the tentative budget. Does anybody have anything that they want to contribute? This can be council or members of the public. Hearing none, I'll close the floor to the public and ask Ms. Lennon to forge ahead.
Go on to item number 2, which is adoption of the city's fiscal year 25-26 tentative budget and expenditure limitation. In the council communication, there is a brief history on the process that we have gone through so far in creating the budget, meeting with department heads, meeting with council, putting the budget together, developing a balanced budget, including personnel, capital projects, operations, and those items. We brought the proposed budget to a work session and had some discussion. There have been very few changes made since the proposed budget was presented to council. Some of those changes are that we, let me get my notes. We moved the funding for the senior center from its own line item to the outside agency funding, increasing the outside agency funding from $180,000 to $290,000 and eliminating its own line for the senior center. That was a suggestion or a request that was given during the work session for the budget. We also changed the wording and the title for the Riverfront Council Chambers remodel to say Council Chamber Remodel and Construction, so that those funds could be used for remodeling and construction of wherever the council chambers end up at when that decision is made. And then we changed some wording for the city building assessment to reflect that it is for multiple buildings. So we plan on doing assessments on all of the city-owned buildings to see what maintenance they may need for future years. And then we removed the athletic field design and added an expense for developing a new Riverfront Park master plan that then could be brought back to council to be adopted before we move forward on any more items at the Riverfront Park. And then we also changed the wording from, it said Riverfront Walk, and it really should have said Riverfront Trail Phase 2. We had already started Phase 1, and this is just continuing the trail that we had already started, and we'd done the design in fiscal year 25, and so this is moving forward with that. And we reduced that value from $250,000 to $210,000 because that is the estimate we have received for that project. And we added in some funds to replace the fence at the orchard, city orchard. All those changes, collective changes, increased the council contingency reserve, undesignated reserve line item by $35,000. So that was the extent of all the changes that happened between when we brought you the proposed budget and this tentative budget. The total expenditure limitation is still the same at $172,885,373. It still includes 4 new full-time positions, a few reclassifications of positions. It includes 248 full-time employees. It includes 2.5% COLA for employees up to the max of their range. It includes a wage adjustment for employees of $20.80 with a passing evaluation. It includes over $70 million worth of capital items and a whole bunch of operations and reserves in the council's budget. And with that, I will answer any questions you may have about the budget and then ask for adoption of the tentative.
Any questions? Well, I don't have any.
Somebody's got to have one.
We've already discussed this before.
Right, yeah, we've been over it.
We've been
Are
through
you
it.
ready?
We love to beat dead horses, so we could do it if you like to.
We could.
You could ask a question. Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
All righty. I move to approve city's proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget as presented and to establish the city's fiscal year 2025-2026 expenditure limitation at $172,885,373.
I will second.
Could we do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley? Yes. Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next is council member request for future agenda item. We're just like all budgeted out at this point, I guess. I think we're, I don't have anything at this time, but certainly there's time to add later on if you think of something. Monthly financial report, we looked at January and February. Is there anything that we need to do about that? I think it is what it is. We've seen it, we're informed. And last is claims for June 17th, 2025.
I move to approve the claims report for June 17th, 2025.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Well,
I move to adjourn.
all in favor? Aye. Thank you, we are adjourned.
That was our quickest council meeting ever.